Welcome back to the Lantern Rouge Cycling Podcast here with Benji, Nyson, and the Rat Thing. This is the recap of the Vuelta a España Stage 14, which I've got to be honest, it was turning into an absolute snooze fest until all chaos broke loose. We had drama, ups and downs. I experienced a wide range of emotions during this stage. This show recap is supported by our show partner, Lecole, who produce performance cycling apparel. If you want to get yourself a pretty steep discount on Lecole items at the moment, they have a sale on, and we have our LR Vuelta 20, that's all caps LR Vuelta 20 discount code, which applies in addition to already discounted items at www.lecole.cc. Thanks to Lecole for supporting the podcast. The actual profile, 166 Ks long. We have a wall in the middle, 3 Ks, 13%, then a highway descent, rolling nothingness before the mountaintop finish, 14.5 Ks at 6.3%. Pretty regular and a fast section at the top. So you have to be pretty ambitious to take it on during the middle of the stage. But a break formed as we expected, Benji, with DSM, but not the Bahrain guys I expected.
Yeah, certainly. And it was a breakaway with lots of riders that want to aim for stage wins. We had two riders from Age d'Isère, Champoussin and Prudhomme. We have Jay Vine in the breakaway. Trotnik, one rider for Bahrain in the breakaway. Then Navarro, Danny Navarro. Is that the Danny Navarro that we know?
Because he rides.
Yeah. Really? Does he ride for Burgos now?
The guy really that won the Vuelta stage and I think ahead of Moreno. Yeah, that's
wow.
The one.
Okay.
He's like 38.
Okay. Baguez in the breakaway as well. We had Herrada in the breakaway, Keukeler, Asparen, Demar, which is kind of surprising. Geniette, Pidcock, Van Marke, Holmes, Zeitz, Bardet, Sunderland, and Gibbons. So a breakaway with people that should on paper be able to win from breakaways. The likes of a Champoussin, a Bardet. We were thinking about a Vine as well in our past few episodes because Vine hype is real since he arrived here and he gained plus 50 watts because he did an interview on LSP. It's the law. And this breakaway gained immediately 6-7 minutes, went up to 10 minutes, 14 minutes. So Jumbo didn't care at all because all these people were 40 minutes behind in GC. So I don't think they were going to give it 40 minutes though. That's a bit risky. Would they go OTL?
Right? No, OTL's 50 minutes. That's probably why Demar got in this break. He's probably thinking, if I stay in GC, they give them 15 minutes and then I get dropped by 35 minutes. I'm now at OTL risk, I guess is why. And he climbed really well, I know, Demar today. He stayed with them over that middle climb. But that middle climb, Benji, well, first of all, did DSM have multiple teammates with Bardet, or was it just he the only DSM
Bardet
guy?
This time around.
That's unusual. I mean, Matthew Holmes, he's not looked as good this year, but he has a bit of form as well. He had terrible luck today. Not many teams with multiple riders with teammates in that group, apart from Age with Champoussin and Prudhomme. But the middle climb, Benji, it went, whatever the opposite is of it kicked off, it did not kick off on that middle climb for neither the break nor the GC group. And why is that?
Well, in the breakaway, only one rider is really looking for KOM points. So it's not like another rider has to kick it off 2 kilometers from the top. It's a 2.8 kilometer climb at serious gradient. So technically, there's no need for Bardet to launch it at 2 kilometers from that finish line because he's likely the only candidate who will go for it. So roughly with 500 meters to go, he decides to put in a bit of a punch to have at least 10 meters on people so he can react if somebody else tries to go over him. But this was not as a tempo where he attacks or something. This was just him trying to get those KOM points, and he did. And he was now leading with 9 points over Caruso after this climb. So that's pretty good for Bardet, considering Caruso was not in the breakaway, as he is also kind of chained to Haig, although I do think he would get a leash off if he is in the breakaway or got in the breakaway today, I'd expect. But nonetheless, after that climb, we had the peloton going over it 14 minutes later. So everybody that was on that climb waiting had to wait 14 minutes, could go for a bit of a break and then come back and they'd have the peloton on it. But it seemed like Jumbo was trying to, first of all, come to the front before the climb. And directly when the climb started, just take the entire width of the road and basically make sure that nobody can really pass them on the climb. So yeah, we don't like that strategy. I don't like it, at least. I don't think you like it either. But
no.
Yeah, if all the riders agree with it, I guess, yeah. Well, I don't think all riders agree because Madrazo a few days ago was pretty angry when he was being shouted at by some omen if he tried to attack in the peloton.
I mean, it's pretty funny that Roglic says no risk, no glory, then produces a T-shirt with that slogan on it in his merch shop, and then the next day he says, Nathan, please, can you block the whole road so no one attacks me halfway through the middle of the stage? Please, I don't want anyone to attack me, even though Movistar didn't even have Valverde to do anything here. So, yeah, nothing happened on that climb. This always happens when they have these walls in the middle. It's like, okay, you could make a big effort and get a gap, but if you're the best climbers in the break, why would you do that when you have 40 kilometers of rolling terrain before the mountaintop finish when you can just burn? Seb Van Mark, why do you want to drop him? He's not going to beat you in the finish, but he can help you before the final climb. So what's the point in dropping him? Peloton's not going to catch you. GC-wise, Movistar have got Verona, Oliveira, Rojas, in varying degrees of tiredness. No Valverde to really put the pace on this climb. Bahrain don't want it to be quick for Haig because he's a bigger guy for a GC contender, so why would they want to increase the pace? And if you do get a gap, you're going to have the team to then control it in the valley afterwards for over an hour. So it's a huge investment for maybe nothing. So that's why we saw what we saw, even regardless of Jumbo blocking, Benji.
Yes, certainly. After that, we did have some stuff happening in the break. Unfortunately, we had Jay Vine who crashed while taking a beat on from his car. And it's like, at first I wasn't sure, was it the car that made the wrong move or was it the rider that made the wrong move, because they seemed to go into each other. And luckily he didn't land under the car, but he kept laying on the ground for quite a bit, but eventually seemed to have gotten back up. What do you think that the cause was for the crash?
A bit of both. So it's a very, very tricky spot to take a bid on. It's a very fast descent. They're rounding a left-hand bend. The car takes the bend properly. Jay is looking at the car as the bend commences and goes straight a bit through the bend, and then he's coming to meet the car. He then is going to hand a bit on off. He's then got one hand off the bars, and then touches the side of the car and can't react and doesn't let go and hits the ground really, really hard at speed. Luckily, he doesn't get run over by the wheels of the car nor the motorbike that was just behind him. So that was very lucky, but still he's hit the ground at 65, 70 plus. I saw he didn't hit his head too badly either, and also his shoulder, and he slid a long way. So I was like, obviously, I know him personally, so it's not great to see that. He was sitting there. He looked bad. Like, he looked physically like he was in a lot of pain. You could see him stretching his leg out, but he wasn't clutching his shoulder too much. And then the cameras cut away, and I was like, he's going to be lucky not to DNF. Lucky not to DNF, and most likely he's done something, cracked his knee or something like that, Benji. But you were listening on Radio Tour or Sportza about what was happening with him.
Well, I had someone say to me down on Sportza, they said that he was back on the bike, and then other people confirmed that. So I was first checking whether I was true, because I don't want to spread that news if it's not all right, and perhaps have a Vine family member hear wrong news from me. But next to that, we also saw it on Race Radio. It popped up there, and it meant that he was back on the bike. And obviously, being back on the bike says nothing. The best thing it says is that he's not off to the hospital or anything. So that's a big win. But when it comes to the race situation, it doesn't say anything about, he's back on the bike and he's dropping back to the peloton, or he's back in the bike and still trying to get back. So we didn't know. But in the meanwhile, we had the breakaway just trying to fall apart a bit, because we had a move that included Prudhomme, not Christian Prudhomme. It's not the Tour de France race director. It was Nicolas Prudhomme. Probably not even actually connected.
It's spelled differently.
Yeah, it is. And then we had Dani Navarro trying to follow together with Sepp van Marke, and those three riders were diving into the descent until at a point we had Prudhomme having a bit of a gap on Van Marke, who took the corner, a very shady corner, a bit wide, but it seemed like Dani Navarro just went straight through the corner ahead of him and cut him off, basically a tackle, a red card tackle or something. It was super weird, but fortunately, they seem to be relatively okay at the side of the road. I don't know about Sepp van Marke, though. He stood up after a bit, so I see that as at least one bit of a pro on his condition. So let's hope he was able to continue and finish today's stage. I'm just not certain about it. Dani Navarro took too long to stand up as well, and eventually those two were basically out of contention for the race. But Prudhomme was off, and he had a gap on the group behind that kept on growing to at least like a minute at a certain point, and this was still with like 20, 25K to go. So still had like 9 kilometers to fix that, the group behind. And the tempo there was not insane, but once the road goes up and Prudhomme starts to get very lonely at the front, then has to do all the effort himself, then it's going to become more troublesome for him to stay away. And it didn't actually take that long until the start of the climb itself that he was caught by people trying to attack.
Where Andre Zeitz was trying to bridge across to him, I should say as well. We might have missed Matthew Holmes. Poor guy had like 2 punctures today. One was when he was in a move with Prudhomme ahead. And the craziest part of this stage was when we were thinking, okay, maybe the radio's got it wrong. Maybe Vine's got on the bike and then he's injured and he's like, I can't do this anymore. We see Undertaker GIF, call an ambulance, but not for me, Jay Vine, with his bibs and everything ripped up. He is back in the group with Romain Bardet plugging away, and I was just Twitter goes absolutely crazy. Promptly, La Flamme Rouge is like, if he doesn't get the Combativity prize, do away with the prize. They announced 3 minutes later that Danny Navarro got the Combativity prize. His odds have gone to like 300 to 1. It's back down to 9 to 1. Bookies are in shambles. His wife Brie is on Twitter being like, holy shit. It was crazy to see. I was like, if he wins this stage or even comes top 3, it'd be insane. Because if you've seen the crash, it's a pretty hard crash. And Bardet wasn't underestimating him, Benji. I think Bardet is acutely aware, because they raced in Burgos together 2 weeks ago, that he's not someone to take too lightly. And I think those two were marking each other a fair bit. What were you seeing from that dynamic in the group behind Prudhomme? Because there was a lot of finessing and tactics whilst Prudhomme dangled with 50 seconds.
Yeah, there was a lot of looking at each other, and Zeitz was just hanging in between, trying to crawl back towards Prudhomme at the front, and it seemed like everybody kind of waited until Bardet made a move. And Vine obviously tried to get a few people to tally along and try and relay a bit, but yeah, they're not really going to do that too much. We've got Herrada, a rider that likes to sit in wheels and likes to see other people serve their energy out and then try and attack over the top of them. So I don't expect too much from him in that chase. And that was obvious because he just kept on sitting on. And yeah, Pidcock was done with it. Pidcock was so done with it that when the following car of Zeitz passed the right side of the group, Pidcock just attacked in the draft of the car and had a bit of a gap on that chasing group for a bit, and that slowly but surely kicked off the attacks in that group of Bardet, with eventually Bardet's attack arguably the craziest attack of them all, because I swear I looked at the screen, he was in the group, and I went to get water from the kitchen. I go back to my TV, and Bardet is literally in the wheel of Zeitz and Prudhomme.
He bridged. We were thinking, oh, is Prudhomme going to do this? Are they messing around too much? And people were telling me, no, relax. Like, they're finessing because this guy is cooked. Prudhomme had the earpiece out. He's got Champoussin at the back. I'm not sure if there was some dynamics between Aja Citroën, but Champoussin was doing a good job blocking, to be fair to him. And yeah, Bardet bridged that gap so quickly. Vine's lost his wheel, so Vine bridges them back across with Herrada, but Bardet doesn't sit with Zeitz. He goes straight past them as well and keeps going his pace. And then it was like 4Ks to go. 30-second gap. Vine is working with Herrada mainly. Those two worked actually pretty well together, but Bardet was too strong at this point and kept building that gap out to 40 seconds, 45 seconds. Vine goes clear, Herrada bridges back. Those two work together. But yeah, Romain Bardet, I think I really like him back as a stage hunter, Benji. It's not what he wanted at this Vuelta, but seeing him hunt stages, it's what I think he's excellent at. And maybe he's being paid, a lot more than just hunting stages, but still, he won in convincing fashion on this mountaintop finish. It's got to be his first, I think, World Tour level win in a long time. Let me count. His first World Tour level win in over 4 years, Romain Bardet.
Jesus Christ. That's insane. But we got to look at it from the image of the fact that he was chained as a GC rider, like you said.
That's what I mean.
But the thing is, he's kind of like a Ciccone GC rider, the kind of rider that doesn't have a time trial, so he can't really use that to gain much. So that's a big, big loss when you're a GC rider these days. You're basically just with such deficit that it's hard to even compete for the win if you don't have a time trial. And the problem there is that he still tried, and the reason I think that they don't switch that easily is because both Ciccone and the Giro, Bardet last year in the Tour de France, were doing a really good Grand Tour until they actually had a crash. And when you crash out of trying to go for GC, I think it's different than when you get dropped, because when you get dropped, you know you're not good enough. When you
Yeah.
crash out, it's like, oh, there could have been so much more in this race if I just didn't have this crash happen to me. And that's why I think they try for that long to go for it. But this time around, it was very early on that Bardet had his crash once again, decapitating his GC. And to have a comeback like this already in a stage win, it's just great. And it wouldn't surprise me if he tries again in a couple of days.
3 wins for DSM at this year's Vuelta. They've gone, I mean, today wasn't really like team tactics, but they've received a lot of criticism. They then had, I think, an Austrian training camp or something, altitude camp, before the Vuelta, and everyone's now flying. Now, I think the reason why guys also stick with GC is Romain Bardet gets paid €2 million a year, according to L'Equipe. Storer is not on €2 million a year, and Storer is equally capable, in my view, of hunting Grand Tour stages. But GC guys, even if they're perennial top fivers, or maybe not even that good, get paid a lot more. So that's why the incentive is there for Ciccone to get a top 7 here in GC, even for Kuss as well. But I should round up the top 10. Herrada beats Vine for the sprint to second. Those two, Herrada second, Vine third on 44 seconds. Pidcock fourth on 112. Champoussin fifth on 114. Holmes, unlucky but better today, sixth. Then Zeiss, Geniet, Nicolas Prudhomme, and Jan Tratnik. Tratnik, maybe, I don't know, maybe he could say I'm on the level of the Giro, and it's a better level here. I would say that Bardet, Herrada, and Vine is better than Lorenzo Fortunato, in my view. But yeah, a pretty exciting. Oh, sorry, Benji. But the GC group, nothing really until Movistar came to the front. Not really. I don't know. They were just kind of steady pacing.
Yeah, it was Movistar just steady pacing, and Jumbo with a large amount of riders still in the peloton, because the tempo in the stage wasn't hard, and they were 14 minutes behind the breakaway. So obviously they weren't losing too many riders. And if you start a climb with Van Hooydonk still in the peloton, that says a lot about the tempo on the climb before. But nonetheless, Movistar indeed came to the fore, and I don't know. I didn't know what I was expecting, because I felt like it was going to just be the peloton rolling in. But then I saw in the breakaway that in the last kilometer and a half, there was this very steep section from roughly 1.5k to go to 500 to go. There was one part of the road that actually seemed like the gradients were higher than what I remembered on the profile. And I thought perhaps that is where they have something planned. And eventually we see the fact that Kruijswijk still is now pacing in the peloton again with Kuss in the wheel. And we see that Lopez decides to attack over the top of them. And he goes for a bit of the ride. And at first, reaction is, oh God, they've still got domestiques. And that could not be a great moment to go, because this is a climb where on that moment, the gradient was still low enough for the draft to definitely matter. Do you think that the steeper section that came after was perhaps the reason that Lopez decided to do this, as the draft there would be less?
I don't really know. I think both teams did fine strategies. Like, I think Jumbo Visma did perfect Skytrain, where you use up your domestiques, keep the gap stable, then Roglic will sprint across in the last 700 meters. Perfect. I think Movistar, they invested virtually nothing in the stage, and they saw an opportunity to try and take 5-7 seconds, as well as, protecting maybe Lopez third against Haig on GC, because Haig isn't going to chase Lopez. He's going to sit in Roglic. So I don't know. I just think you don't want to go too early, because then you risk like Ineos went too early. They did the opposite to Movistar on stage 9 and cost Yates time, in my view. The problem just was, as you said, Benji, the timing and that flat section you could see from the side on the draft. They were going like 40 k's an hour plus. Kruijswijk first, Kuss second, and it just didn't work out too well for Lopez. Benji, I guess he still took 4 seconds on a group of Roglic, Mas, Bernal, and Haig. But what's the downside for them? There's no real downside for Movistar attacking there. Mas gets to sit in.
Yeah, you're right. And perhaps they now know what Bahrain's plan is when an attack by Lopez comes, because Bahrain was still sitting with 3-4 riders in the wheel of the Jumbo riders when the Lopez attack came. And they decided to not use those Bahrain riders to pace back Lopez and put Jumbo in the effort of having to chase down Lopez right there, but not in a crazy fashion. And it seemed like Bahrain just didn't panic at all, and Haig just didn't care at all whether Lopez would be at the front, because Haig's a pretty clever guy and would probably realize that he can't gain too much on a stage like this, and that the coming stages might have bigger gaps, and every energy spent might be a expenditure. But I still don't think that Lopez spent too much energy on this personally. And this is also that typical Lopez attack. I swear, like, was it the Vuelta where Froome and Nibali were still fighting for top three positions, and we had Lopez attacking on the last kilometer of these climbs where it had a bit of a downwards angle and then went up again towards the finish line, and he ended up winning two stages or something, Lopez, in one of those Vueltas in such a fashion with these type of attacks, and just reminded me of the old Lopez.
He won Sierra Nevada against Zachary and Kelderman and Chavez and Froome, but he put a pretty solid gap into them. It was a very similar looking stage to today, actually, with a steep middle climb and a long climb. But yeah, I think Bernal looked better, but again, they did the climb very, very slowly. This was certainly no Watts per kilo test today. I think concerning for Ineos is Yates losing 16 seconds to Lopez on a climb where a draft was huge, and they did it slowly. You reckon this is the capitulation?
I don't know. We can't really take a conclusion out of this 16 seconds, but I just see it in front of me that he now keeps on losing like 20 seconds, 30 seconds a minute towards the end of the Grand Tour. But hey, he can surprise me, and he may, because that would be an extra contender for the future, you know?
I feel sorry for GC Koos because he's working selflessly as a teammate. It's obviously costing him time on GC. We forgot to mention, Benji, the funniest GC battle of the day was between Odd Christian Eiking and Guillaume Martin. So I forgot about this completely. There was, because the big GC teams weren't actually trying anything for most of the climb. Cofidis came to the front, attacked Intermarché, trying to gain time on Eiking so Guillaume Martin can go into the jersey because he's currently sitting second on GC. And then Louis Meintjes marks them and Padun for some bizarre reason. Just Padun's there. And then Eiking's in the second group with Jumbo soft pacing pretty much. But it didn't matter in the end. It all came back together. That was funny. I love the battle within a race. And the other one was Ciccone attacking, which Benji might have mentioned, and Brambilla before him. Brambilla with jersey open into a headwind. Just a lot of meme attacks today. It's particularly, you can see it when the pace is slow, it's the same guys every time get bored or something, Benji, or just itchy, and they're like, I'm gonna try something for glory.
Okay. But to finish off today, I do want to introduce a new thing for the rest of the Vuelta whenever we feel like it. I can't promise this will be every day, but today it will. And we do want to give out an LRCP competitivity prize because the Vuelta one is dog shit. Like, let's be real. If Danny Navarro wins today, then something's wrong. And it's based on a subjective system online where people can vote, but it's only advertised on a Spanish news, on the Spanish channel RTV, I think. And as a consequence, obviously, you only have Spanish people voting, and then you're going to have likely a Spanish winner. But who's your take for today? I think it's a pretty obvious one for you.
Vine today, I'm going with Roglic on stage 10. Even though he crashed, it was very competitive, just unnecessarily so.
Yeah.
Caught on stage 11. I don't think any of these people won it, by the way.
Why are we going back in time?
I'm just, because I'm pretty sure these are all wrong.
Masquetta won as well on the stage that Vine attacked, right?
On stage 12. That should have been Vine. Stage 13 yesterday should have been... Was there even a break?
I don't remember.
Know. Probably Bernal, because he mixed it up. I give it to Bernal. So yeah, we got our own rankings. But today, Vine, you went with Vine as well. It's hard when a guy.
I'm not sure actually. Like, obviously, Vine is the name that I would put forward, but I feel bad for the Prudhomme guy as well because it's probably his best breakaway stage ever. And on another race, he would probably gain competitivity prize if it wasn't for Vine crashing. So I'd give it 70 to 80% for Vine and about 20 to 30 about Prudhomme. We've got a percentage system here. It's allowed to have multiple riders because the other system is fucked.
God, he's a Clement Venturini lookalike. Nicolas Prudhomme, good-looking man. Anyway, he's got another year on his contract. He's young, Benji. He's got a future ahead of him. I think we forgot to announce Vine extended with Alpecin Phoenix. That was announced yesterday, which I presume the deal would have been done before his breakaway attempt. So, yeah, good to see. He's got to be the most successful Zwift Academy winner so far. But anyway, that's enough on that
Have there been so
stage.
many?
I can't even remember the names of the other guys. There's been like three or four, I think.
And the female one rides for Canyon SRAM, right, or something? I vaguely remember.
Yeah.
She
She actually did well, the Australian, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough for them. They get a 1 year deal. They get over there late, particularly if they're from Canada, Australia, America, and yeah, it's just tough to make an impact in like 6 months. But anyway, tomorrow's stage 200 k's from Naval Moral de la Mata to El Barraco. It looks like a big GC day, but steady climbs, unlike the Vuelta normally. 15 k's 5%, 9 k's 5%, 20 k's 5.5%. Descent, short false flat descent valued in 8.6 k's at 4% for 6 k's. Run into the finish. I'm looking at the climbs and the gradients. The long ones are very, very consistent. I'm not seeing any black sort of gradient markers on the Flamme Rouge, which indicates it's over 9 or 8%. So I don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow, Benji. Do you think it's much of the same as today?
I feel like it might be similar. The thing is, like, if you put this kind of stage on a stage 20 in a Grand Tour, this usually just brings fireworks because you've got that typical stage 20 Giro d'Italia parkour where you have this larger climb and then a smaller climb just before the finish line. I absolutely love this parkour, but the problem is I don't think it's at the ideal point in the race. Then again, it's before a rest day, so that might offer opportunities for GC riders to try something more than just sitting on. But I don't know, will they wait until Lagos de Covadonga and Gamoniteru, knowing that that is just basically the last climb that will happen in those stages? Or do you think that today they might risk it from all out? Because that seems to be one of the two stages that come that you can go from far together with stage 20.
If I'm Haig and I'm not content with the top 5 and I want to really risk it for the podium, I think tomorrow is the stage to try.
Mader should be in the break.
Yes, Mader, Caruso, Padun, all Tratnik. He is in the break today.
Arashiro.
You
see him today?
He's such a good domestique. We joke, but he's actually a really good domestique.
Yeah, at the bottom of the last climb, well, at least like with 7K to go, so halfway the last climb, he was still in the peloton, and he crawled back to the back to get some water when it was still allowed, probably just right in the moment that was still allowed. And he goes straight past, he snipes past the back of the peloton, and I swear, like, the camera switches, and he's at the front next to Haig, giving him water, like, underrated MVP of the day, Arashiro.
I think, yeah, tomorrow's a time to try for Haig. Maybe Roglic doesn't mark him because he's so far behind. You know, he's quite a bit behind Roglic. And then that puts Movistar in a difficult position where they probably do. But if you catch them by surprise, it's like, now they're giving Roglic a free ride. He's got the teammates to do it. It's the climbs, the steady gradients that aren't over 8% where, you know, he's like 70 kilos. As I said with Vine the other day, tomorrow is better for him to try something to gain some time back. So yeah, tomorrow, but maybe he doesn't want to. I haven't discussed it with him. So, but re-break Benji, I think it looks like Stora. I like Stora again tomorrow.
I kind of want to say someone like Kron, but these longer climbs, I'm not sure. Because like on paper, we had that Swiss stage where he was
I think he's fine.
Deviated into by Rui Costa. That's the only thing I remember from that stage, to be honest. And then is dropping, which was surprising. But Andreas Kron or Caruso again with a great solo.
Louis Meintjes would be one to get in the break if he can.
Yes.
Maybe there's less leeway to get in the break anymore. Pidcock tried today. Fabio Aru doesn't look as good anymore. But yeah, DSM should be all DSM again. Nick Schultz. Schultz is quite fast, so I think, but he's like not as good a climber, say, as Bardet, but the finish suits him more than Bardet, I think. So Schultz can win from a small group. He's actually quite fast. I'd really like to see Schultz in the break tomorrow. For Bike Exchange, yes,
sorry?
Sir.
When it comes to Bora, we've seen that Grosschartner is obviously going for GC,
True.
but are we expecting anything from Palzer and Zwihov in this Vuelta? Because we haven't seen him at all.
No, mate. Zwihov got extended. Zvihov's actually been okay. Palzer, yeah, I think I already said my thoughts about his level this year. I mean, people keep telling me he's like the best physiological talent since
Einstein.
Yeah, since Indurain and co. But he got 3 minutes put into him on a Unipuerto mountaintop finish by Romanian university students 6 weeks ago. So not looking great for him so far. But anyway, maybe lose a lot in the bunch. Otherwise, Javon, if he's okay again tomorrow, and the hopefully made a Badun show.
I'd wait to go for 17 or 18 for Vine, because after this crash, I don't know if it's okay to go the day after it already. And I've got a feeling that somehow it feels like he's better off on the type of stage where you have like that one crazy final climb, like a Lagos de Covadonga or a Gamonitero. But the problem is then, will they have the leeway of the breakaway on a stage like that? But that's for the future, So perhaps you're right. Vine might be in the break. Would be awesome. But I don't know. Krohn or Caruso are my picks.
Ion Izagirre as well. Watch out for that man on a finish like this. He's really, really good on a finish like this. But that's our recap for stage 13, 14 of the Vuelta a España. We've got the rest day after tomorrow, I think my math serves me correctly. And hope you enjoyed it. If you like the podcast, make sure to like it down below. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a review on podcast players, and we're out. See you tomorrow. Ciao.